John Qualls started a multi-million-dollar cloud hosting company in Indianapolis several years ago. I was lucky enough to be one of the first employees there. I think I was employee like number 12 or something. In less than 18 months, we grew to over 36 employees by the time I left. They have served some of the largest companies in the world, and now John has taken on a new role. He's actually the president of a coding academy that's changing the way people learn how to program. Check out this really cool fireside chat in the home of voicemail inventor Scott Jones.
All right, so my first question is, tell me a little bit about your earliest memories here in Indianapolis, and your earliest memories when kind of realized that you were meant for something bigger. And you can answer that however you want to answer that.
So maybe I'll start out with, I kind of grew up on the west side of Indianapolis, and I was a rock-solid straight F student in high school. And around 15 or 16, I realized that I was going absolutely nowhere, and I needed to do something different. I really felt like I was better than this, and I just felt like I was in this situation that I needed to find a way out. And so I decided that I was going to get straight A's and graduate from high school early, and I was going to join the Marine Corps, and I was going to go in and ask them how far away could they move me away from Indianapolis. So that's kind of hard to start a story about how great Indianapolis is when the first thing I say is, how far away can you send me from here? Now, as the military recruiters, they love when people come in and say, can I leave the United States? Because they say, absolutely, I guarantee you'll leave the United States, because no one ever asked for that, right? So they did put me on the other side of the planet in Japan. And that was the Marine Corps was just a wonderful opportunity for me to find myself and find just so much around discipline and things like that. But the other part that was most important, by living in Japan, I had this tremendous appreciation for the United States and appreciation for what we had in Indiana, not only living in Japan, but living all over the country. And so I knew when I was going to get out, I was going to go back to Indiana because there was so much that I liked about what we were doing here, and I wanted to be part of that.
That's an awesome answer to that question. But I'm curious, what brought you back, and what made you decide to do something more than what the average person is expected to do in terms of like the average career, go to school or join the military, and then get a safe, secure job and kind of grow the family and do what's in the middle 80% of what most of America does.
Again, I don't have this really smart answer other than being probably naive and not knowing that, well, why can't you do that? Why can't you see a presentation from a company and say, wow, that's a great product. I think I could present that better than them. So why don't I quit my job, have a second child, and refinance my house, and go ask them if I can work for their company for free if they'll give me triple the commissions what they normally pay the other guy, right? So I just thought that was how you did it. That's how you did your career. And I sold $1 million out of Barnes & Noble watching people go for the HTML books and saying, you could write this database-driven website and you could do it that way. And that just it was just constantly doing that, challenging myself and just, why can't I do that? When I started BlueLock, I started it in Indiana. I didn't know that you can't start a national company in Indiana. Just over and over, I think that's always been the case, is just challenging myself to do something and get myself out of my own comfort zone.
So I want to get back to the BlueLock story in a second, but you kind of just sort of glossed over the sold $1 million out of a Barnes & Noble watching people grab books. First of all, what's a Barnes & Noble? And how did you sell $1 million? You are one of the best salespeople, and I'm lucky enough that I got to ride shotgun on a lot of sales meetings with you. You were one of the best salespeople I've ever seen. And so what are some of the things that actions you took that got you to be the kind of person that could sell $1 million out of a Barnes & Noble, which I hear has books, which are these paper things.
Yeah, so they used to have those, and I had never sold anything before. I'd actually been kind of IT director at this company when I saw that presentation. So I just said I was going to become a salesperson. I didn't know what that meant. And I figured I just had to go where the people who wanted to buy what I wanted to buy might be, and Barnes & Noble just seemed to be the right place. So I went by the books And I would watch people who would go for the HTML coding, and I'd say, well, you don't have to learn all that. You could do this database-driven stuff, and we do that, and I'd love to talk to you about it. And then I think the other part is I was completely fearless because I was so naive. I had no idea that you couldn't just ask the CEO of some company who happened to be in Barnes & Noble and was visiting from New York City, and before you know it, you're doing this website for Goldman Sachs, and it's just it's just this complete naivety of knowing that, well, why can't you do that? Which I think is something that happens a lot with us. I actually call this cancer, and not the terrible one that ends your life, but the one that allows you not to live your life, and that is the CANTSIR, the cancer. Somewhere we can't talk to authority, we can't ask them for help, we can't talk to them, we can't talk to them as normal people, we have to treat them somehow differently. Just have a conversation, and this is where I think I can add value, and does that help, yes or no, and just have a conversation. But that cancer, I've seen it kill so many companies and so many people's career, and that they just completely fear the ability to talk to someone, right? So I just think that's what it's all about.
You're clearly one of the best people I've ever seen at just talking to someone. I've seen you sell six-figure deals, and I don't think we talked about cloud computing once in those meetings. And they were just like, yeah, let's do that. Sounds good. Let's try it out. It was amazing. I want to make sure that we get to a couple of things here, but the BlueLock story is one that I don't know that a lot of people know intimately, especially like the early start of BlueLock. And you raised some money from a fairly well-known guy here in town that was some of the first money in BlueLock. Can you tell me a little bit about why you decided to go from selling millions of dollars, which I'm sure was paying you well if you're getting paid triple the commissions, to why not just keep doing that, and why did you decide to go out on a limb and raise money and start a company?
Well, at the time I was working at a company called Inframe, and it started out as One Call Internet, and we renamed it the Inframe, and we had Monster.com and all these great customers, and I felt like we had sold it out, and there wasn't anything else to sell, and the owners wanted to sell it, and I really felt that there was a different way of doing this data center business. And so I decided that I was going to start a company that did that. Again, this naivety of I didn't know where I was going to get the money or any of those things. I just knew that I was going to do it. So I gave them 90 days notice that I was going to go do it. And then a couple days later, I started, well, I probably should raise some money. And I went to a basketball game, a Pacers game. They were playing the Lakers. And I was actually on the floor, which was someone else's tickets. And I was sitting next to one of my customers, Mark Hill, and I said, this is where I think things are going. And he goes, I think you're right. I tell you, if you ever want to do that, I'd love to invest. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think anything of it. A couple weeks later, he sent me an email and said, I'm not going to ask again, but if you are really interested in doing that, I would love to do it with you. So we kind of met, and he said, how much do you think it takes? And I made up a number. He said yes. So I'm sorry I don't have the 0 for 30 story and all these things where I try to beg for money. But I think the team actually earned the money in the things that we had done at Inframe, and the folks around Indiana had seen so many companies that we had helped. And I think that's what really got us that opportunity. It was the 5 years before that, not the actual the Pacer game. Right? And the Pacers did win.
Talk to me about one of the toughest moments in BlueLock, or the biggest growth moment in BlueLock, because I want to talk about what you've done since BlueLock, but that is an amazing growth story. So maybe give us an idea of how much it's grown since Lakers floor seats to where it is now, but then also what was the toughest part of that growth?
Yeah, so I'll try to keep this story short, but you talk about the toughest moment. So I think we're in our about 18 months in. I think I'd done about $800,000 that year. We were kind of struggling because we couldn't seem to get the Midwest to understand what we're doing, so we were spending more time on the coast. And but we did $800,000. There was 8 of us, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine in New York, and it was him and the CIO of Lehman Brothers, and they had just gone through bankruptcy, and they said, "Hey, we really like what you're doing. We would like to use you for what we're doing. Would you participate in this RFP for Lehman Brothers?" And I'm like, "Oh wow, well, tell me more about it." And they kind of explained it. I said, "Who else is involved?" And they go, "Oh, we got IBM, HP, EDS, and all these others." And I'm thinking, well, you are who you say you're, what you say no to. And so I said, no way. I'm not going to waste my time. There's no way we could do that. So I'll try to go quickly, but they called the next day and said, please look at the RFP. So I said, all right, I'll look at it. I looked at it, and it was about a $1.6 million project. So I'm like, wow, I could double the company. Might as well at least play with the RFP. So we started doing the RFP, went through that process. Probably took about 2 months, and we had these Tuesday calls, and then somehow they just called us and said they'd award us the contract. And this is the hardest part. So I have to go there and negotiate with Lehman Brothers this contract. And so I figured, okay, I got my khakis, I got my BlueLock shirt on, which is what we have here in the Midwest. I got my 3x5 card with 8 demands. So I get in the airport, I pick up this book called A Colossal Failure of Common Sense, Insider Story of the Failure of Lehman Brothers. And in the book, I'm reading about this head negotiator who's yelling at the president that he must save Lehman. Right? So I'm reading this on the way there. I get there. I come in the negotiation room. There's all these lawyers, 6 of them, and the lead negotiator is that guy, right? So I'm like, well, here's my demands. I want all the money up front, and I want net 5 terms. I want everything wired, and I want all the implementation paid first, right? And he kind of looks at me, and I know we're recording this, so I can't curse, but he's like, we're not giving you all that blank, right? And you just talk about the moment. I was like, well, I have nothing to lose here. And I said, listen, we might be from Indiana, but we wear our shoes all year round now. And this is the only way I know how I can make this work as a businessman. And they all kind of chuckled too, and they gave me everything that I asked for. And I can tell you what was so great about that. Later on I asked them why us, and they just said, you guys were just so straightforward and always wanted to do what we wanted to do. But I can tell you that 9 weeks later, it was $28.9 million. And we never missed a deadline. We delivered everything. We stood it all up in 6 months. What should have taken, IBM said, would take 2 years. And it was really the part that really launched the business and put us in places in front of CEOs around the country that we never would have gotten in front of without that opportunity. So that was that kind of moment. And you never know when those are going to happen. But I just felt like I had nothing to lose, and we kind of got everything to gain there. And so the ability to, they just kind of launched us, and the ability to be kind of the fastest growing company in Indiana, and $20 million in revenue and profitable, and kind of 3 years was just wonderful for the team. So it was just a great moment. So, and I got a chance to meet Matt. And I was told I had to hire a bunch of OR fellows as we were growing. Right?
It was a real honor to be there for 18 months. I was there for the employee. I think I was employee 12, and we were over 35 by the time I left in just 18 months. It was crazy to see, and a CEO change in the process. Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of? I mean, you were the CEO and founder of BlueLock, and you decided. What did you decide?
So, you do that Lehman piece, and it literally about killed me. I mean, I would leave on Sunday night. I would come back Friday morning. I really think I was sleeping about 8 hours a week for almost 8 months, and it just about killed me. And I was so emotionally exhausted, and I kind of went to Mark Hill, and I was just complete. I'd given everything that I had. I felt like I had kind of burned some staff. We just worked ourselves to death. And it was at that point where I was like, wow, this organization, I need someone who can, I just kind of need a break. I need someone who can come in and lead the organization to that next level. And that's, we talk a lot. That was a real moment for me to really say, I got to do the right thing for the organization. And right now, I don't have the bandwidth, the energy bandwidth after this sprint of 9 months. I got to kind of take a step back. And so I worked with Mark, and we identified a tremendous leader in Christopher Clapp, who just had an excellent exit at Angel Learning, and it was just seamless. It was the right thing to do. It was the right thing for the staff. It was the right thing for me and my bride and family. They wanted to know who I was because I disappeared for a year, almost 2 years. So yes, I did that, and then I had an opportunity to kind of help continue to grow that team, and I had an opportunity to work with Deloitte and help them stand their U.S. hosting practice up, and it's just tremendous. which is going to be kind of a segue here in that I felt like I was spending all my time outside of Indiana over 3 years. I may have lived here, but I was always gone, and I really wanted to kind of come back. And I started, after a period of time, to get this itch that I want to start another company, and that was kind of what's been going on the last 9 months.
Quickly, I want to talk about one of the things that you talked about that involves genetics and a little bit of what would that be without giving it away? A little bit of networking with people. So just to give you an idea of why we're all here tonight, I started Verge when I was working at BlueLock, and John gave me an idea while we were driving around a car that was like the seed to starting Verge. And so it's amazing to see what you kind of instilled in my head. And the fact that I was at BlueLock and you said, we were grinding, the whole team was grinding. And I just thought, this is what working is, right? All working is just kind of like this. John knows too. He worked at BlueLock too. So it was an awesome experience, and the fact that you planted that seed and it's grown into this, I want you to kind of share that philosophy and what that's evolved into now.
So, and Matt has taken this to a place that I never could have envisioned when we were talking about this, but I've always felt, and a mentor of mine told me, that it really is about finding your passions and getting involved with other people, right? And networking is not just the wire part, but it's actually the people part. And, there's a thing I've been saying, what I call the genetic echo. And I really feel this happening right now. Technology came around. Why are we having this meeting here? Why couldn't we just had a big WebEx and everybody join that way? And the reason is I really believe that we are genetically wired to have these personal interactions and look people in the eye. You are built to see this and to look the person in the eyes and see their body language and have that journey, right? We were made to do that. And, if you look at the meetups and these Verge events, all these things are about people getting together. If you look at the things we're doing at 1150, right? We could do all this training online, but there is something about being in a classroom and the ability to interact and collaborate with the people next to you. The instructors are wonderful, but it's the training that happens and the learning that happens between the people, right, that really makes this thing. So I call this genetic echo, and I just think as humans, we desire to be together, right? Absolutely. None of you are being paid here tonight. No one paid you to come, but you came because you're passionate and you wanted to have this interaction. And so, the philosophy is if you have, quality content and quality people, just great things will happen. It will change the world. And I really think that the Verge and 1150, everything we're trying to do is around that piece, right? The technology is great, right? But it's this piece and the emotional part and the connections that you make is what's really going to move your needle and our needle around here.
And you talked a lot about brain gain, and this was something I think you even mentioned to me when I was at BlueLock, because when I was at the Orr Fellowship, we talked about the brain drain. Oh, the brain drain in Indiana, meaning people are fleeing to the coasts, and Indiana is draining all of its talent to the coasts. And you had some interesting perspective on that. Do you mind sharing that with the people here?
Absolutely. So first, we're in Indiana, and we love sports, right? Whether or not that's basketball, football, or racing. And we've all know that time when we were watching our favorite team, and one of the teams started playing not to lose. And then the other team just comes back and blows them by, and it's just you're crushed if you are on the other side. But if you're on the side of the team that played the win with 9 seconds to go and he makes 8 points, right? You're going out of your skin, right? He was playing to win. Always playing to win. Reggie Miller, those who remember that, right? It was a player that played for the Pacers. Oh, Utah. Okay, all right, just checking, right? So to me, every time, in 15 years, I've been walking around Indiana, and all I hear is people talking about the brain drain. And every time I hear that word, it's almost a dirty word. It is, we're playing to lose, we're playing to lose, we're playing to lose, we're playing to lose. And to me, we should be talking about brain gain. What are you doing to brain gain? Verge is investing in the brain gain. I'm so excited to be at 1150. It's the first time I can literally say my direct efforts and our team's efforts are investing in the brain gain in Indiana, and we'll just stop talking about brain drain. I don't even want to hear it, right? You're just talking about playing to lose, and we should all be playing to win. And I can tell you that it is getting out. In the last 2 weeks, I've had 5 companies who said they're moving their development community to Indianapolis. I'm like, why? Right? And they say why, right? It's all those things I talked about, mind the gap, those who heard me talk. It is our work ethic, it's our humble, it's our ability to just get it done, and who we are, right? Being very thoughtful, right? Brain gain. It's all about brain gain. So every time you hear brain drain, think brain gain. Right? There's a thing out there. Brain gain IN. Right? We just want to hashtag. Let's just push brain gaining. Right? We're from Indiana. We can talk that way. But brain gain IN, I think, is really important. So every time you see someone make that investment, I think you should send that tweet out. So.
That's good. We're going to start doing that over the next couple of weeks. Keep an eye out for that. Make sure you hashtag BrainGainIN with your next tweets. I see a couple good questions come in here. One is from David Rinaldi. He's actually a magician. So if you find him after this, I had lunch with him the other day. He's really good, and this is from a former magician. He was blowing me away. So if you find David later, he's over there by the boat. But David asked a good question. What would you have done if you didn't get that big contract, and would you have changed course?
That's a good question. I probably would have maybe a couple days. I'd like to say I would have been over it by the time the plane landed. I would have been some cursing and some throwing some things. Probably would have thrown a little fit for a couple days. And then I would have just said, well, it can only get better from here. And then I would have tried to figure out the next thing. And I guess I think maybe that's just one of my things. The failures, you just can't carry them on forever, right? I like to tell a lot of times, do you have a time machine in your pocket? Well, if you don't, then you're not going to go back, so you might as well just go forward. There's just no way to go back. There's just keep going forward. And I've always thought, in times of when I've been really low, you notice when you're always down, it's usually when you're alone. And it's interesting that you're down, but then you go into one of these events, and you go home and you're just charged up. So that's what I probably would have done. I would have sulked, and then I would have found my counsel with my friends, and they would have patted me on the back and go get the next one, and that's what we would have figured out. And I can tell you that the team I had there and that's there today, that's their mentality as well.
So another good question here, and this is from Job Wise, who won the first Apple Watch. He's going for the second now. Because I guess he wants to be monochrome or dichrome. So Job asked, what's the one thing you do every day to stay connected? And how many people do you have here at 1150 now?
I need to count, but I think it's 20-something on the EFA.
You have 20-something now?
That's crazy. Yeah. Well, there's a core team of 7, but we have lots of instructors and everybody. I think I did an org chart last week. It was 18. But there's also a consulting company that Terrence Kunstick runs, and I think there's 17 apprentices and probably 22 people over there. So there's probably in all about 40 people here.
So with the 40-some people that are involved, what's the one thing you do every day to stay connected and motivated to your passion of entrepreneurship?
Well, I just think being here and seeing the students and seeing how excited they are to be here. And in between the classes, to hear them talk about what about this? And I could do that. And then just be able to sit down there and just kind of geek out with them. It just puts the fire back in me. And just see there's a part where they go out and they play basketball, and I just see how much fun they're having and how passionate they are, and it just gets on you, right? You say, I need to enable more of that, right? Every time I see our team enable someone's success, it just makes me, let's do 2 more of those. Let's do 50, right? Let's just be bold and make a difference. And I just think every day, it doesn't matter what the challenges that may come up, there's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 moments every day here where I see that happen. It's just, and you're going to hear about it in the next 90 days because we're going to find a way to get these absolutely emotional things that are going on around here. Taking people from mom and dad's basement to $60,000 in 4 months, and just the look in their eyes of how happy they are to get that job, and they earned every bit of it, is just amazing.
I'm so excited about 1150 because when I was at BlueLock, one of the things that you tasked me with, or maybe it was Wolf that tasked me with, one of the founders of BlueLock tasked me with was create a web page and see if you can get some interest in this self-service cloud stuff, right? We were all enterprise sales. And so I was like, cool, I'm going to have to learn how to code. So I got online and took some courses and threw up a crappy web page. But that whole process was so freaking painful. And I literally relied on a lot of people here. Actually, I think James I asked a couple times some questions, and some of the other partners in his company at Expected Behavior that they asked, what am I doing wrong here? I keep crashing this thing. And I wish I would have had something in person that I could have taken. Can you give us an idea of some of the in-person courses that you're having here at 1150 over the next couple of weeks or couple of months? And who they're for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really kind of taken a step back and looking at how we wanted to put this together and serve a coding ecosystem. You know, one of the real challenges is there's TechPoint, there's lots of Verge and all these ones serving entrepreneurs and technologists, but there is no coding ecosystem that is just for coders. And so we wanted to be able to grow new coders, and we also want to take existing coders and teach them new skills. And it's about how do we put them together, right? Because that's where that magic happens, right? When that transfer of relevancy and knowledge from one to the other. So we have these 2-day entry courses where you can come in and learn the basics of coding, and then we kind of give you a measurement, kind of give you a red light, green light, if this might be a good thing for you, right? And then we intermediate coding, and then there's a piece where we actually do what we call junior level coding, where we'll actually accelerate you in a given language. I'll use iOS as an example. So we teach Swift in 2 days, and so those who don't know, it's been around about 6 months, so good luck finding someone who's got 4 years of experience. But we'll teach that Swift in 2 days, and then the next 5 days you'll write 3 apps and put them in the Apple Store. And just think about what it would take if you were on your own and you're going to try to learn Swift, and then write 3 apps and figure out the process to post them in the Apple Store, right? But here you're going to do that in 7 days. And we do that for all the languages, right? The .NET, the Android, the Java, JavaScript, all those same types of techniques. And then, we're doing a big data course. We're doing a security course now. We're going to be doing an Apple Watch course. We're also going to be doing a professional coding course. It's not just about the coding, but it's also about the skills you need to be an excellent employee. Agile, best practices for security, best practices for testing, best practices for deployment, right? And we're going to be giving some badges out, entry-level badges and senior-level badges. We're still arguing about the professional badge. One side of my team wants to have the 1150 professional badge. I'm kind of leaning towards the badass professional badge, but we'll just see which one is going to win. But we want to be able to give those badges because there is no certification in our space. And it's all really about creating this community or ecosystem that services coders and the companies that they serve. And it really is about getting that thing to start to move, from the young to the developers, to the employers and the innovators, right? There's kind of a cycle that we have there. We do have every 2 weeks you can come in for a tour, and we'll give you more about that. But that's really what we're doing is creating an ecosystem specifically for coders to new ones and grow existing ones.
John, thank you so much for being up here.
Want more secrets from inside the minds of entrepreneurs and innovators around the world? Subscribe to our YouTube channel here and click the link below. We'll send you our best interviews and strategies for growing your business.